of Russia at 9:20 in the morning.
News with Marion Marshall. A falling meteor has broken up in a series of explosions in the skies above the southern Urals region of Russia.
In Russia, the shockwave blew out windows and shook buildings. Most people suffered minor cuts and bruises, but 46 are still in hospital.
For Caroline Smith, it was one of those events when you remember exactly where you were and what you were doing.
Out of the corner of my ear, I heard them say, breaking news of this large explosion near the city of Chelyabinsk in Russia. And my first reaction was, oh my goodness, not another Chernobyl type thing. And so I looked over at the screen and I saw the video of this fireball coming in, and I knew straight away that this was not space debris or a fake. This was a real spectacular, probably once in 100-year event. I literally nearly dropped the coffee on the bed.
Part of the reason this particular meteorite caused such a stir was because it fell as a large fireball, seen by many.
There were hundreds of eyewitness accounts. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people were posting photographs on YouTube and videos, but there was a report of a hole in the ice in the frozen lake. But something just didn't feel quite right about it, so people were sceptical. But actually, the largest piece, which I think weighs about 650 kilograms, was actually recovered subsequently from the mud in the bottom of that lake. It was about 2 or 3 meters depth.
Occasionally, though, we have tracked a meteorite from space to Earth. Brother Guy Consolmagno, a Jesuit and an astronomer, was for 20 years the keeper of the meteorite collection at the Vatican Observatory.
The most exciting case of a meteorite that was seen to fall happened in the Sudan in 2008. The meteorite was actually seen in space by a telescope. When they tried to calculate how close to the Earth it was going to pass, they realized its orbit was going to pass closer than an Earth radius from the center of the Earth, which means it's going to hit the Earth. They were able to actually get images of it as it fell and then collect the samples in the Sudan near a railroad station known as Al-Mahadasita, which is translated just means station number 10.
But not all sightings are so trustworthy.
There are a lot of false alarms. There are a lot of materials that today, as a meteoriticist, I'm brought rocks all the time from people who claim, I saw this fall out of the sky, I'm sure this is a meteorite, and you look at it and it's a terrestrial rock, and you can identify what kind of terrestrial rock it is. One famous case was the fellow was showing an iron meteorite. He was convinced it was an iron meteorite. He showed the hole in his house where it fell through, and it's only when you turned it over in the back that you saw that there was a screw in the back, with English measure, of course, indicating that in fact it was a piece of something that had been manufactured on Earth and for one way or another flew through the sky and wound up hitting this guy's house. We call these things not meteorites, but meteor-wrongs.
Brother Guy says it's very unusual for people to both see the fireball streaking across the sky and then find the exact piece of rock that caused it.
What happens more often is that one person sees the blast of light and a few days later somebody else comes across the meteorite. These things move so fast and they are so bright that our human experience wants to say that they're closer and slower than they really are. They'll say, oh, I saw something about the size of a hat and it fell behind the barn. Well, in fact, it was probably the size of a house and it fell 200 miles away.
No wonder then that the sudden appearance and dramatic consequences of falling meteorites have bamboozled us over the ages and fired our imaginations. Ever since we've known about meteorites, we've tried to understand how it is that rocks can fly through the air. The Greek philosopher Aristotle thought they were an odd product of extreme weather, vapours in the air which coalesced into solid form. As early as 3000 BC in Egypt, people found iron-rich rocks scattered across the dry landscape and realized they were different. The ancient Egyptians used these rocks to create high-status objects such as jewellery that they buried in tombs with important people. At that time, the hieroglyphic they used was a general one that describes anything iron-like. Anything hard, dark and heavy could all be grouped together under the same symbol and loosely called iron. But that changed around 1500 BC. A new hieroglyphic appears that identifies metallic iron as special, separating it out from other materials and identifying it as coming from the sky. Diane Johnson from the Department of Planetary and Space Sciences at the Open University has made a special study of ancient Egypt and meteorites.
If we jump forward in time to, say, roughly the end of the 18th dynasty, early 19th dynasty, so this is not long after Tutankhamun died, we start to see the use of a new term for iron, and this term literally translates to mean iron from the sky. One possible explanation for why this would be is if, say, there's been a big dramatic event that has made iron and the sky synonymous. An example being, say, a large fireball, so something similar to, say, what happened a couple of years ago in Russia with the Chelyabinsk meteorite. This would be a very big clue to almost anyone who happened to see it or be near it, that iron comes from the sky, and it would be almost like an infamous event which could then cause the term iron from the sky to become used synonymously for metallic iron.
Is there any evidence for such a dramatic event?
We can't actually prove there was a specific event that inspired this. However, there is a large iron meteorite impact crater in southern Egypt, and this crater is about 45 meters across, so it's quite a big diameter, and the impacting body was around 1.5 metric tons, so it's quite a big event, and certainly it would have been producing a big trail in the sky. It was travelling at hypervelocity speeds, so it would have been producing sonic booms.